You need to take a step back from that and focus more on being understood. On connecting your work to client outcomes, clarity scales way faster than capability. So if your team doesn't understand what winning looks like, your clients never will.
You're listening to the MSP Security Playbook, the show where modern MSPs come to sharpen their strategy, streamline operations, and secure their growth. I'm your host, Jacob Hazelbaker, MSP Channel Account Manager at Heimdal Security, where we help MSPs win with unified, AI-powered cybersecurity solutions. Today's guest is Dean Trempelas, MSP veteran, educator, and the mind behind Empath, a learning and professional development platform helping service providers build stronger teams and deliver better results. Dean has spent years inside the MSP trenches, growing from a small break-fix shop to leading a 300-person division, and now helps MSPs tackle one of the biggest challenges, developing people, not just processes. In this conversation, we unpack what truly drives success in the MSP space, from breaking free of industry myths and ego traps to building learning cultures that actually stick. It's an episode about the human side of scaling smarter, practical, honest, and full of takeaways that you can put into play right away. But before then, here's Adam Pilton, Heimdal Cybersecurity Advisor, with this week's Threat Brief.
Thanks, Jacob. Imagine this. One of the world's largest and most respected cybersecurity companies, a firm trusted to protect thousands of organizations globally, suddenly discovers that its biggest vulnerability wasn't a foreign adversary, a new zero-day, or even a sophisticated intrusion attempt. It was an employee, someone on the inside. CrowdStrike recently revealed that it had terminated a staff member after uncovering that this individual had been quietly leaking screenshots of internal tools and systems to a well-known hacking collective. These weren't generic interface captures or harmless images. They included internal dashboards, sensitive operational views, and even screenshots of authentication portals used by CrowdStrike personnel. The kind of material that gives attackers insight into how a security company manages access, monitors threats, and structures its internal defenses. And the most important detail is this. Nothing was technically compromised. No system was breached. No firewall was bypassed. No exploit was used. The entire risk originated from a trusted human being who already had legitimate access, willingly handing over information that outsiders would normally struggle to obtain. CrowdStrike has stressed that the leak did not lead to customer impact or system intrusion, but the situation itself illustrates something far more troubling than a one-off incident. It shows that even the most secure organizations, the ones with world-class detection, relentless monitoring, and hardened infrastructure, can still find themselves exposed when a trusted insider decides to work against them. And if that example wasn't concerning enough, a separate case in the United States has shown just how far insider threats can escalate when the wrong people gain privileged knowledge. The Department of Justice has charged 2 former ransomware negotiators, along with another security industry employee, with allegedly conducting their own ransomware attacks. These were individuals whose entire job revolved around helping victims navigate extortion, restore operations, and survive cyber attacks. Yet prosecutors say they used that same insider understanding of negotiation tactics, response procedures, and organizational weaknesses to breach companies, exfiltrate data, and deploy ransomware, and profit directly from these attacks that they once hired to defend against. One victim reportedly paid over $1 million in response to their actions. When you look at these stories together, a clear pattern emerges. Insider threats are no longer rare anomalies or background concerns. They represent one of the most difficult attack vectors to anticipate and one of the most damaging to experience. Insiders don't need to hack their way into a system because they already have the credentials, the permissions, and the operational knowledge to navigate an environment quietly. They understand where monitoring is strongest and where it is weakest. They know which systems contain the most sensitive information, which processes can be misused, and which actions are unlikely to trigger alarms. This is why organizations must begin treating insider risk with the same seriousness they apply to external threats. Trust should not be assumed simply because someone is an employee, a partner, or a consultant. Access should be carefully limited to what is truly necessary. Regularly reviewed to ensure it remains appropriate, continuously monitored for unusual behavior, and verified through strong identity controls and robust auditing practices. The CrowdStrike case demonstrates how even small pieces of internal information shared by someone with legitimate access can create meaningful risk. The Department of Justice case demonstrates how individuals who operate within the security world itself can weaponize their professional expertise for personal gain. And both cases together reinforce the reality that insider threats are evolving, growing, and becoming more strategically valuable to cybercriminal groups. Stay sharp. Catch you in the next brief. Bye to you, Jacob.
Dean Trempelas, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me here, Jacob. I'm really excited.
Yeah, me too. So I've been really excited to chat with you today. You have a nice variety of different things in your experience. Something that really stuck out to me, though, is your work in the MSP career space. So you started out, it's my understanding, from a break-fix shop, and now you have lead a 300-person division. So what are some of the biggest lessons and experience that you've learned that really drove your success in this space?
I'm no longer with my MSP, but when I joined my MSP, right, typical story, break fix shop turned to MSP, struggling to grow. We were just lucky. Honestly, we were lucky. We were in the right place at the right time to experience a lot of growth. I think the biggest thing I've learned is that in general, process maturity and clarity around the outcome of what you're doing for your end customers, that beats heroics 100% of the time. MSPs that win, that grow, are not the smartest. They're the most consistent, and that consistency scales, whereas that like heroism just burns people out.
That's interesting. Could you speak to that a little bit? Or do you mean like just really burning yourself out, working night and day versus being consistent over time effort with them?
The majority of our industry is sub $5 million in revenue, less than 20 people in staff. And any one of those MSPs that we just pulled them on here right now and asked them a little bit about their company, how they got started, we hear the same thing. It was an owner who was really good at fixing computers. They loved doing that. They built a business around that. Your initial sort of thing you do, right, is you try to hire little clones of yourself. So you try to hire other passionate people that love fixing and building computers. And then we try to train them on customer service. And eventually you mature a little bit and you hire people that are more customer service oriented and train the tech. But that just kind of stays in a loop. And a lot of these folks just stay there forever. They don't grow past that because we get so obsessed that the technical product that we're building, that we're delivering, that we're creating, that we're crafting, that's why somebody's buying from us. That's the passion part of what we do, but it causes us to kind of forget that consistency of outcome, trust, allowing our end clients to know that just we're going to be able to do the same thing we did for them today that we did yesterday, the same way in the same time. That's actually what people really want when they outsource a service to a vendor. And so many MSPs just don't focus on that until their organizations get to a point where there's like 20 years of like technical and emotional debt where it's so hard to build that. So that was kind of the big thing we learned, was just really focusing on that consistency, making it so whatever our claims were, whatever we felt our differentiators were, our response time or the quality of our service or the products we used, it was just consistent. People feel like that. Like I hear when I tell people that, they will respond, that's a commodity, and which is absolutely not true. It's just a consistency of expectation. It's a standard. Not enough shops focus on that until it's kind of too late.
Good point. I heard someone describe the analogy of like a hamburger shop that in your town you know and love very well. You know what they have on the menu. So when you pull up to that hamburger shop, you go to that drive-through window, you want to know they have the same French fries consistently that you come to expect, the same hamburger. And if you do extra things on top of that, it's, that's great. But they want to know that the bread and butter is there, so to speak.
And it's, I use that analogy all the time. It's like, Jacob, you've been in the drive-through. What's the SLA in a McDonald's? And do you have any idea? Do you know what the drive-through SLA is?
No idea.
What would you guess? What would you guess it is?
Oh, I would imagine they have a certain amount of minutes in which you're supposed to get your food after ordering, and it's probably supposed to be hot and edible and tasty.
So McDonald's does not have an SLA. They don't actually have a service level agreement with the customer where if they don't get you through there in time, you're owed something back from them. But internally, they shoot for about 4 minutes. Overall, they're so consistent, and same with other fast food chains, that we all know about how quick is too quick. Like if you go through the drive-through and you're in and out in 30 seconds, you're like, all right, that's been sitting there. There's no way that was fresh. And we also know, barring a long line, when too long is too long. And you're like, they must be understaffed with having problems today, or I bet my burger is going to be questionable. That's what we're talking about with consistency, not the actual product itself. I don't think anybody wants to make a McDonald's hamburger at their MSP, but allowing somebody who has zero contract with you to sit in a drive-through and automatically just know what good looks like based on experience. That's what we want at our MSP.
Yeah, I love that analogy that you described. So essentially for you in success in the MSP world, consistency, not necessarily having everything laid out in letter by letter describing it, but letting them know that they can rely on you and letting them know that you'll be there for them consistently and take care of everything they need.
It's customer experience, really.
That's very true. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this week's conversation. If you're finding this episode valuable, take a quick second to follow the MSP Security Playbook on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. It really helps us reach more MSPs who want to scale smarter and lead with security, and it keeps this kind of expert insight coming your way. Now, back to the episode. You mentioned in the past that the industry as a whole takes itself way too seriously. So what do you mean by that? And what does that mindset do to affect how MSPs lead their teams?
I say that tongue in cheek to refer to all levels of the industry. But if I had to generalize, MSPs tend to act like we're doing heart surgery. And we're really not. We're running small businesses that use tech as a lever. We're helping people, really. And when you take yourself too seriously, you stop experimenting, you stop laughing, you stop innovating. You do lose out on that joy that was such an integral part of why most MSPs got started. And I think that's really, really important because levity and loving what you do builds culture. And it doesn't mean that every employee at every MSP loves their career. It's a job. People work at jobs to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. If you think about the average MSP employee, we only get a phone call, an email, or a text when something's broken. Somebody's in pain. That is the only time they reach out to us. Nobody calls you, Jacob, to be like, hey, my printer's working great today, Jacob. Thank you. Like you're only going to get a call when it's not working. And if all day you're in this mindset of client first, high touch, and all you do is just get pain, just coming in, just people in pain, that's incredibly mentally and emotionally draining. And you have to be able to have fun moments. You have to be able to kind of like zoom out of the business for a minute and just enjoy the fact that you're in a room with other people who like tech or video games or anime or TV or whatever, and have those moments of, like it's Patch Tuesday, what's going to break today? And everybody kind of chuckles about it. All of that stuff, it builds a sense of internal culture and trust that translates through to the client experience. Clients can tell when employees are happy. And being able to have that fun in your job, being able to have fun as an owner, being able to have fun as a vendor, as a private equity investor, the whole industry, if everybody is just able to occasionally pull that veil back and just smile and kind of connect on the fact that ultimately we're all in this industry because we enjoy helping other people. I think that's so important to kind of recenter what we're doing and give everybody like a little bit of like an emotional bank they can draw from on those really challenging days when everything's going the wrong way and the phone is only ringing with people who are in the most pain. You need that happy moment. You need sort of the like the medical drama. You need like the puppy in the medical drama where you're just like, oh, you need that moment. So I'm just very big on in general in this space that we put our ego aside every so often and our technical prowess aside and just smile a little bit and enjoy what we're doing.
That idea a lot, especially as an employee. So what kind of things do you work in for your staff, or do you recommend other MSPs do be it weekly or monthly kind of get-togethers for fun, or what do you recommend?
Oh, that's such a great question. So this is one of those things that I learned through scale. You can't force fun, but you will have to begin with. It's like the old joke that like, oh, we got a pool table or a ping pong table, so now we have company culture. Obviously, it doesn't work that way. And all those things like going out for beers on a Friday with the team, or getting like a snack subscription for the office. Those are all elements of a office culture, but none of those things are culture themselves. But when you're starting off, you do have to lead from the front on this, especially in a smaller organization. There can be somewhat of a perception, especially if you're the owner. Kind of maybe the same way that you probably wouldn't want to throw in a party back in high school with your parents home, even if secretly you knew your parents would have let you. It was sort of the premise that like mom and dad are home, therefore I can't really be my inner self. That is sort of the same culture in a lot of small businesses. So as a leader, you kind of have to lead from the front on this. And I'm very big on picking something that is a non sequitur that will immediately, due to its almost absurdity, draw some levity. So like for me, early on, that was I started a thing at our office called Fun Shirt Friday. And from the beginning, I was the most egregious and outlandish with this policy out of anybody on the team. So hey, we're gonna do Fun Shirt Friday. I am gonna come in. I should have worn it for this. I got this one shirt that's like pineapples and like space laser cats holding beer mugs, like, and I was wearing it to client calls on that Friday, and like totally deadpan, like nothing was going on. So you have to lead from the front on the fun and understand, like anything else, it takes consistency to build some trust in the team that you're actually allowed to enjoy yourselves. But you'll see it manifest in small ways. Like behind you, you've got a video game console, you've got some desk tchotchkes, you've got your own like laser cat thing going on. And my guess would be like on your first day, you probably don't put all that stuff out. It takes a little while to feel comfortable that I can start to express inner Jacob with everybody I work with. And so it's really that, just acknowledging that your team's going to take a little while to find their own comfort zone. And your job ultimately as a business owner is to draw a little bit of offense on not letting it get completely out of control as well. And it's helping your employees learn to manage that skill set of some fun, some levity, but also we're here to do a job, and we're here to do a job really well. And we enjoy doing the job. But when a client calls in pain, the fun stops for a minute and we focus on that client, and then we go back to the fun.
The way you describe that really reminds me of the mental health field a lot too. I know some people who worked in mental health field, and the way you described it, similar. Like they talk with people, clients who come in and they're in pain. That's why they're there. They're not there when they're having a great day. So it is kind of hard to take a step back and enjoy your job again, despite hearing all this pain, this struggle that people are going through.
It absolutely is. And if you want to look at it pragmatically, if I put my service manager hat on, the easiest way for an MSP employee to get a raise is to leave, is to job hop. I mean, that's an unfortunate reality of the industry. If I have a bunch of people in my office and I make the assumption that all of them are there because they want to make money and all of them would like to make more money than they're making, then I always have the risk at any point that an employee I treasure might just leave because it's easier to make more money that way. Things like career plans and one-on-ones and all that structure help. But the other part that helps is just simply making it pleasant and enjoyable to be a part of working at your company. It is such a powerful lever for basically buying more time from that employee to grow their career where they're at. If you're content where you are, if at the end of a hard day you can smile and you're happy the next morning, maybe not happy that every ticket you're going to work is coming in. Maybe you don't want to reset passwords, or you're rolling your eyes that, I got to fix that printer thing. But you're happy to see the people you're going to work with. You're happy to be in that environment, either physically or virtually. That does so much to cause you once again to go, I like this place and I really want to find a way to make it work here. Some people still will leave, and that's just the nature of how folks' careers grow, but you're able to really control and use that as a tool to keep people comfortable and happy in your business if you simply focus a little bit more on making it enjoyable to be here.
Yeah, that's relatable even on a personal level. I've stayed at some places longer than I probably otherwise would have, except the people were nice. They manage to find a way to laugh and enjoy it. So I think you're onto something there, especially for MSP employee retention, which seems to be a challenge, especially for people in MSPs in remote areas, small towns. Like, how much talent really is there to pull from in the first place?
So about 6 or 7 years ago, if we're having this conversation, so my MSP was in southeastern Massachusetts, about an hour from Boston and about an hour from Providence. So in a tertiary market, old factory town, not maybe somewhere where you want to build a long-term life. If I wanted to retain higher level talent, it was impossible because they would just go to either city. You pick up an hour commute, which stinks. So I guess 2 hours there and back, but you'd immediately get a $20,000 pay raise. And so anybody that got to around tier 2.5 would just leave to go work for an MSP in Providence or Boston. So that was already a challenge. And then when remote work really became normalized, when COVID kind of forced our hand on that, well, now I don't even have to pick up a commute. Now I can go work for literally any company anywhere on the planet, as long as I have internet access. And in most cases, perform the exact same role I'm performing. And now I can start playing games as an employee with cost of living and maybe getting a job in a really high cost of living remote location and my low cost of living state. And so it's even more challenging now to retain people. I think that's really just where looking at those factors about what it's like to be the quality of the employee experience and how pleasant it is. And we started off this whole conversation talking about process. That's part of it too. How consistent is my day to day? Not just how fun is it and how enjoyable, how consistent is it? How same is it? Not same and boring, but can I have expectations? Can I know what a regular day at my job looks like and should look like? And how often am I forced to deviate from that? Those are all elements that start causing that employee, once you start getting, a real consistency going, to build a lot of trust, that not individually with you as an individual, but trust with your business, that I know what this job is. I know who I work with. I know who we are as a brand. I know who I am at this brand. And that's all very comfortable. And it's very, very hard to leave that. And this sounds a little Machiavellian. That really will prevent somebody who otherwise could get a remote job anywhere from doing so, sometimes in perpetuity. We really underestimate that comfort in terms of consistency and expectations and quality really, really is just this lever that can just keep somebody in their chair at your company for a long time. When my former MSP got really big and we got bought by a private equity company, everybody in my original office location kind of panicked at first. A couple of people in there came to me and they're like, hey, I think I've been thinking about growing my career. I think now is when I'm going to leave. And I helped a couple of people find jobs in other parts of our industry. But most of that core team is still there years later. And the company they work for is a good company, but it wasn't because of that. It's because they liked each other. They liked the consistency. They just liked being there. That was their friend group, but also their sort of safe space and their consistent area in terms of job performance. And I mean, that's 5 years now since then. And most of that team is still working out of that office, even though by all means, they absolutely could have gotten remote jobs and probably gotten pay raises. That's how powerful that is.
First, that's impressive that they managed to retain so many people even after all that. And two, I never thought ever to apply the concept you describe of consistency for your clients, but also for your employees. It does seem pretty powerful. You get to have a nice environment. They know what to expect. They have a certain level of comfort of things they anticipate, both from the client and the employee point of view, which retains the people you work with, the people who are your customers longer.
And it's consistency of outcome and clarity of outcome. It's not consistency and I pick up box and I put down box, because some people like that, but ultimately that can get pretty boring. I mean, everybody doesn't want to kind of work in an Amazon warehouse type of a job where, every day box comes in, bloop, bloop, box goes out. I don't mean that kind of consistency, although that can be helpful. It's more that we're all aligned on what it is we do. I start every day understanding this is the outcome for the day. This is how I contribute to it directly. I know what good looks like. I don't have to go ask somebody if I'm doing a good job today, because I know I'm doing a good job because I have very, very clear deliverables. And then giving those employees a little bit of freedom to, like we talked about, having fun and just be creative and be able to be exceptional within that box. And that is really what manifests that client experience that so many MSPs think they're chasing after when they make those comments like we deliver white glove service. It's really what I'm describing is what they're chasing after. The thing is, your employees kind of want that too. All of us like knowing, even the most independent and confident people still really like knowing that they're doing their job well and they're contributing towards an outcome. It's this happy little dopamine rush in your brain. And a lot of MSPs and a lot of small businesses in general, we don't do a great job of explaining that because we think that's either micromanaging or we just simply don't know ourselves. And so we kind of just leave this whole like emotional currency out on the table that we could be spending in our employees' brains to just give them that sense of consistency every day at their job.
Yeah, I'll definitely remember that bit of advice there on regards to consistency. And finally, if you could give one spicy Monday piece of advice to MSP owners listening, what would your spicy Monday piece of advice be?
Yeah. So MSPs generally over tech everything. We try to be the shop with the most bestest automation stack, toys, whatever. We always act like that. Like it's like a car meet where every MSP kind of just wants to have the best car there with the best mod or upgrade. And I know part of it's because that's what gives us passion, but you need to take a step back from that and focus more on being understood, on connecting your work to client outcomes. Clarity scales way faster than capability. So if your team doesn't understand what winning looks like, your clients never will. And I think at a lot of MSPs, they're not able to grow beyond this maturity stage ever. There's just this obsession that the technical prowess has to be the way forward. I was a non-technical service manager. I mean, I know a little bit, and I can hold a conversation with somebody who's technical, but most of the stuff my help desk team could do, I couldn't do, at least not as well as they could do. And I would say that was probably the case for a lot of our leadership. And that was never an impediment to growing the business. Because, I mean, I think I've seen before, Jacob, that you're like really into AI. You don't have to know a ton about how to use, you need to know a little, but you need to know a ton about how to use an AI model or, to vibe code or something like that. Somebody's going to make fun of you when you vibe code with AI if what you make is slop. They're not going to make fun of you if what you've made actually does something useful. And so it's just that idea that we really just want to focus on being understood and connecting to client outcomes.
So this leads me to one of my favorite parts of the podcast. We call it the MSP Hot Seat question. So this question for you says, if you could instantly teach every MSP leader in the world one lesson about building better teams, what would it be and why do most people miss it?
Oh, good question. Okay. Psychological safety beats technical proficiency. The team that feels safe enough to tell you bad news early will always outperform the one that hides it until it's too late.
I like that. Dean Trempelas, I really appreciate your time today. This was a very fun episode, and I hope our listeners, I'm sure they got some good pieces out of it too. So thank you so much, Dean.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate being here.
I really enjoyed today's conversation with Dean. I learned a lot. He had a lot of really insightful things to say about MSPs, especially in regards to working with people. So something he said that really stuck with me was he was describing consistency. First, he described it from the beneficial view of your customers. Your customers want to know consistently that you're providing them with the product, the level of service they come to expect. So what I also thought was interesting, though, was he took that concept and he applies it also to his staff kind of point of view. So consistency is good for retaining customers, clients, but he said also for retaining your staff, because one of the key pains a lot of MSPs experience is retaining staff members, especially when the MSPs in a remote location, a town that might be far away from a big city. So it can often be difficult to hire people and even harder to retain them. So keeping your work environment in a place in which your employees know what to expect, a work environment in which they have a definition for what success is, and they know that they're succeeding and how, that kind of consistency there for employees is great too. So I really enjoyed today's conversation with Dean. I got some really great insights for MSPs, and I hope you did as well. That's a wrap on this episode of MSP Security Playbook. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. If you found today's insights helpful, be sure to follow the show on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. It helps other MSPs find the playbook and level up their security game. Got a question you want us to tackle in the MSP Hot Seat? Or a topic you'd like to hear more about? Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay sharp, stay secure, and keep building the future of your MSP business.